Hi everybody, welcome to the Lesson 6 Introduction. Now, this lesson is a little bit difficult and we're going to be looking at the structure and the tone of passengers. So in the first slide, we'll look at tone and structure words, and then we'll have a bit of practice together. So let's have a look. The tone is the feeling or the sound of your writing. So when somebody's listening, what is the feeling that they're getting? What is the sound that they're hearing? Is it a polite sound? If there's a lot of please and thank you, for example, it's polite. If you call somebody Mr. or Mrs. or Sir, then that's very polite. Is it rude? Different cultures have different ways of speaking to different people. So, for example, in Korean culture, if you call me Steve, some people might think that's rude. Whereas in Western culture, we would say that is friendly. So you have to be aware not to bring your own ideas of culture into this topic. Also, things change over time as well. So if a passage is older, then people generally were more formal in the past, but they might be more informal now. For example, many of my teachers I would call by their first name, but maybe 50 years ago, it would be sir or madam. So things change over time. You must be aware of when the passage is from. Business-like, well, business-like would mean there's not a lot of chit-chat. You're not asking about family, you're not asking about the weather, you're just talking about work. Friendly, on the other hand, means you do have extra chat, extra writing or dialogue. So the tone is the sound of something. The style, the style is the way that somebody writes, the word choice, the grammar, the sentence length, the sentence type. You can think of style as being formal style or informal style. Informal might use slang vocabulary. It might use sentences that are not quite grammatically correct. But formal style will be more like the academic writing that we do in class. I've got this picture from the internet. There are a lot of words on here, and you might want to just pause and copy down the words that you don't know. I'm just going to highlight a few of these words. So sympathetic would be understanding. Self-assured means confident. Scholarly is very important. Scholarly means that it could be written by somebody at a university. It could be an example of research. So it will have lots of factual information. It might have a few opinions, but the opinions will be proven by evidence. Sanguine means you kind of give up, you accept. Romantic, obviously in love. Reassuring, you're trying to encourage somebody. Placid means quite soft, quite easygoing. Passionate, lots of heart, lots of emotion. Optimistic, you're seeing the positive. The opposite of optimistic is pessimistic, when you're seeing the negative. Nostalgic, nostalgia means you're thinking about the past, you're remembering the past. Reflective, you're thinking about your past experiences. So these are all quite positive words. Negative words, doubtful, you don't really believe what you're seeing or hearing. Grim, be very sad. Ambivalent, almost like you don't care, or indifferent. Indifferent and ambivalent mean the same thing. Ambiguous means not clear. Condescending is when you talk down to somebody. You treat them like they're a little bit stupid. Evasive means you deliberately try to deceive or you try to not give a clear answer. Pedantic means you look at the very, very small detail to try to find the mistake. Bewildered, again, is confused. These are some of the most common from this list, but you're welcome to copy down all of the words from the list, but definitely the ones that I've just highlighted and explained briefly. I think these words do tend to come up quite often throughout the GED literature, so it would be useful for you to pause the recording now and copy down those words. Now we're going to do some practice, so again, pause the recording and try to answer this question. When you have your answer, continue to play the video. So until I moved to western South Dakota, I did not know about rain, that it could come too hard, too soft, too hot, too cold, too early, too late, that there could be too little at the right time or too much at the wrong time, and vice versa. Vice versa means opposite. I did not know that a light rain coming at the end of a hot afternoon with the temperature at 100 degrees or more can literally burn the wheat, steaming it on the stalk so that it's not worth harvesting. I had not seen a long slow rain come at harvest, making grain lying the swath begin to sprout again, ruining it as a cash crop. Now, which of the following characteristics describe the style of the paragraph? Clearly, it says put a mark next to all that apply, so there can be more than one. Now, the style, remember, is the way that words are used. Is there repetition of key words? Well, yes. Too hard, too soft, too hot, too cold, too early, too late, too little, too much. The word too is repeated many times. So A is definitely sure. B, short, simple sentences. Well, we begin, we have a comma, and then a comma and a comma. The sentence ends here after many commas, and the next sentence ends here. So in the first paragraph, the sentences seem to be quite long. In the second paragraph, now we can follow it along, and the second paragraph is actually one long sentence. And the last paragraph is also one long sentence. So they are not short, simple sentences. They are long, complex sentences. Then continuing, it says, I did not know, I did not know, I had not seen, I moved. The word I is also repeated quite a lot, so C would show the style. And then the string of opposites, we have hard and soft, we have hot and cold, we have early and late, we have too little and too much. These are all opposites. So we should have also chosen answer D. So question 2 based on the same passage. Again, pause the recording and try to answer now. So what two words would describe the style of this excerpt? Well, when we're looking for technical things, technical would have high-level vocabulary, but we have words like hot and cold, hard and soft. So the vocabulary is quite simple, not technical. We might also think of technical things as being like in engineering, where you would have numbers, speeds, or weights, or exact temperatures. 100 degrees is not an exact temperature, it's an estimation or an average. So I don't think technical is the right answer. Simple, well, simple needs simple vocabulary, and we have simple words: early, late, hot, cold, hard, soft. So simple, definitely. And then you probably know we use a lot more contractions. Well, traditionally, actually today, formal and informal would use contractions. And certainly when I write for university, I would use contractions. But traditionally, even just 10 years ago, many people would say that contractions show informal writing. So it might be it is informal, whereas its would show informal. So we have a lot of contractions. Also, in formal writing, we don't use the personal. Instead of saying, I did not know about rain, it might say, nothing was known about rain. So like when we're doing academic writing, we often say, instead of saying, I agree or I disagree, we might say, it is clear. So by writing impersonally, by using the third person instead of the first person, I, we make things more formal. So here we have the repetition of the word I, which shows that this is personal. It shows that this is informal. And then last question, which word, singular, describes the tone of this excerpt? Just pause quickly and try to answer. Well, serious just means straightforward, telling things as it is. Sarcastic would be the opposite of what you mean. So maybe you look at somebody and you say, oh, you're so beautiful, but really you mean they're ugly. So you're being sarcastic. Or you look at somebody who's got quite dark skin and you say, oh, you look like a Westerner, a Golowa, but you're being sarcastic. You mean actually they are Kabli, they are dark skinned. So sarcasm means saying the opposite. There's nothing here about opposite. It's like rain is hard, rain is soft, rain is early, rain is late, rain is hot, rain is cold. These are just straightforward descriptions of what's happening. Sentimental is where you look back on something with fondness. Maybe you remember your childhood. You remember going to your pee-pee and your poo-poo, your grandparents' house. Or you remember playing with a childhood friend, or you remember your first girlfriend or your first boyfriend. These are sentimental ideas. This is not sentimental. This is just description of crops dying, that the rain was destroying the crops. This is not a happy memory. This actually is quite a difficult time. The answer would be A, serious. Now we've got a new passage. Again, pause the recording and try to answer this first question. Have you finished? Well, let's have a look together. Put a check mark next to the word, singular, that best describes the language in the excerpt. Exaggerated, which means you make something bigger than what it is. Conversational, like you're having a conversation with your friend. Or intellectual, well, intellectual would be kind of academic. So you're thinking like university language. So sure, I'm lucky. Who wouldn't consider it an honor to have known Jacob Ruppert? Also the builder of baseball's greatest empire, Ed Barrow. To have spent 6 years with that wonderful little fellow, Miller Huggins. Then to have spent the next 9 years with the outstanding leader and the smart student of psychology, the best manager in baseball today, Joe McCarthy. Now, sure, I'm lucky. This idea of sure, I'm lucky, would be very informal. Sure means it is true, but sure would be a slang or an informal way of saying that. I'm, again, would be informal, not I am lucky. And then who wouldn't consider it an honor is asking a question. When you're asking a question, it's like you're having a conversation. This is not intellectual. This is not academic writing. In academic writing, you make a statement and you prove the statement is true. Is it exaggerated? Well, there is a lot of praise. It's an honor, the greatest empire, wonderful person, outstanding leader, best manager. Are these exaggerations, or is this just conversational language? Well, really, it's conversational. There's asking rhetorical questions. Sure is very much slang language. This is not really exaggerated. This is just his honest opinion of the people that he played with. This is from a baseball player. Again, pause the recording and answer the question. So looking at the tone, sad, that's quite negative, but an honor, the greatest, an outstanding leader, a best manager, I'm lucky is repeated. So this is kind of quite positive language, not sad language. So take away answer A. Ironic. Ironic is where something happens when it should not happen. It would be ironic if I told you about the dangers of drink driving and then I went and drink drove and got arrested by the police. There would be irony there, the kind of the opposite of what should be happening. Or sincere. Sincere means from the heart. You say what you really believe. Well, he really believes that he was lucky. He really believes it was an honor that he had the best manager. So he's got an awful lot to live for. He believes that there are many good things in his life. He is speaking from his heart. He is telling what he really believes is true. And again, last question, pause and try to answer it. So is this formal or informal or complex? Well, complex means complicated. But we do have formal and informal. Everything is either formal or informal. When we have two opposites like this, where there's nothing in the middle, we can say that one of those is going to be true. It's not really complex. He's talking about all the people that he played with and played under as a manager. So it's not really complicated. Now, formal would be correct grammar, correct vocabulary. You would not be using the I'm. So it is true that one can consider oneself to be lucky or fortunate. That would be kind of formal language. But here it's just sure, 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 sure. Not it is true, sure. So this is showing informal language, so we should have chosen answer B. Well, that's the end of this introduction. I know there's a lot of words that we've touched on that might be new to you. So I do think before you go and look at the other quizzes in lesson 6, you should spend some time looking at words that you don't know in a dictionary, trying to learn these new words, because you will get questions that ask you, what is the style of this excerpt? What is the tone of this excerpt? So the more you look at these words now, the easier the questions will be when they come up in the practice quizzes. Wassalamualaikum.